Your income is not stuck because the market is unfair, because life is unfair, because you got dealt a bad hand of cards. Your income is stuck because your structure cannot carry the next level of pressure that God is trying to put on that. Do you think that income is a numbers game? It's not. Why is it that some business owners have this phenomenal ability to rapidly scale their companies and 10x their income, while others just stay stuck, frustrated, just mediocre, mundane, average? One of the things that I love about coaching business owners is the opportunity to sit face to face, toe to toe with business owners in the same industry. And I was reflecting on this past year and some coaching clients, and we have one coaching client that is rocking it out. Yet we have another one who is not moving much. And what's interesting and fascinating to me is that these two coaching clients, they're in the same city, different locations of the city, but the same city. They're in the same industry. They're both financial advisors. They have the exact same fee structure. They have the same market conditions. It is identical. I mean, you cannot get any more identical than what we've looked at this last year. And one of them 10x their income over the last few years, and the other one is going to die grinding away with nothing to show for it but stress and a business, candidly, that no one really wants to buy. So what's the real difference? Friends, I got to tell you, it's not luck. It's not talent. It's not even strategy. The real difference between the delta, between these two individuals, these two financial advisors, is pressure capacity. You see, most of us, if we're honest, most of us as business owners, we run from pressure. We don't like it. It's like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. But there's a very few small number of business owners who learn how to carry it, but more importantly, direct it and steward it. Those individuals who learn how to direct the pressure properly, they're the ones who 10x their income. They're the ones that we see they double or triple the value of their company as little as 18 months. They're the ones when they walk away, they're not living with regrets. So today I want to talk about why only a very few business owners will ever reach decamillionaire status. And once you see it, friends, you can't unsee this. You may actually see it in your own business. So as I reviewed these two advisors, I found it fascinating in this capacity. Both of them are founders. They both started their business about the same time. They both are doing roughly about $2 million in top line revenue. They both have been in the business more than 10 years. Both are, and I'm going to put air quotes here, busy. Both are quote, quote, respected. Now, I want to fast forward about 10 years from now. Here's what's going to happen. One of the advisors is going to be well into the 8-figure valuation. They're going to have a team that runs the day-to-day operation. They're going to have a calendar that doesn't own them. The other one's going to still be grinding. Their revenues aren't going to increase much. The valuation is not going to move much. This individual is still going to be the bottleneck. And they're going to continue to talk about the one day we'll get there. Oh, well, we'll just keep going. Same market, same potential, completely different realities. As you're hearing this story, I want to ask you, have you ever told yourself a story like this? If I just had a little bit more revenue, things would feel a little lighter. If I just had a few more clients, man, a few more clients, man, then things could get easier. But then as you add more revenue, as you add more clients, the pressure, we're going to use that word a lot today, the pressure goes up, not down. Have you ever thought about that? Why is it that whenever you do increase revenue, you gain as a financial advisor in this particular case, you gain another $6, $7, $10 million of assets that you're going to manage, and it generates for you $60,000 to $100,000 more of top line revenue? Why is it when that happens, does the pressure seem to increase? The reason I submit to you is because your income ceiling is never the problem. Is that you don't know how to direct and steward the pressure. See, you're capped out the level of pressure that your structure and your stewardship can handle without cracking. I've been reading some fascinating books recently just because it's the end of the year as I'm recording this. You'll hear it in the beginning of 2026. And I've got a stack of books that I've been reading. And I was studying the law of thermodynamics and various things. And I ran across this very interesting principle called the Pascal's principle. And I vaguely remember this from somewhere in my past. And perhaps you even understand what the Pascal principle in physics actually says. What it says is when you apply pressure into a confined fluid, that pressure is easily transmitted equally in all directions through the system. So the way I was teaching this to my kids as I was studying and I became fascinated with the Pascal's principle, more importantly, how it applied to business, is I took two glasses. Now I would call them like a mug, like a beer mug or something of that nature. And I have the ability to be able to drill through glass with one of my tools that I have. So I drilled through the glasses and I put a little tube connecting the bottom of the glass. And wouldn't you know it, whenever I took a turkey baster, just to illustrate this for the kids, I stuck a turkey baster into the glass on the right, and as I released the little bubble on the turkey baster, the water flew up in the turkey baster, and I pulled it out. But when you looked at the glasses, they were both level. You know how this works, right? The water is going to rise to a level where it equalizes. If I took the same concept and I reversed it, and I had these two glasses that were both half full, and I poured additional liquid into the glass on the right, the glass on the left automatically rose in proportion. Why? Because of Pascal's principle. And that is that fluidity and things always equalize. Now, that's science, that's the laws of science. But if you really take a step back and look at it in your business, it happens in your business. It happens in your life. It happens in your finances. It happens in your leadership. It happens in your team. It happens in your marriage. The same thing happens in your health. It happens in your operations. It happens in your spiritual life. Everything is connected. Pressure never stays where it starts. It travels through your entire ecosystem. Cash flow pressure ends up in the house. It ends up in the marriage. Team dysfunction shows up in your sleep. The lack of systems shows up in your blood pressure. It happens across the board. See, what we try to do as business owners is we keep trying to fix that one little thing, that one little area. Maybe it's clients. Maybe it's revenue. Maybe it's our health. We focus in on that one thing in isolation, but the pressure is systemic. If you want to 10x your income, you must 10x your carrying capacity to carry, to direct, and to steward the pressure across the entire system. And we don't think that way. Over the last year, I've had the privilege of talking, and I'm not exaggerating, with hundreds of decamillionaires, a few billionaires. Since we retitled the show, we've been examining decamillionaires and how small business owners rapidly scaled their companies, how they actually achieved net worth and enterprise values north of $10 million. And what I started noticing is there's a dichotomy, there's a stark difference between the mind of the decamillionaire and the average business owner. So what I see for the average business owner is this. We're trying to hold everything together with hustle. You are the primary salesperson. You're the primary firefighter. You're the person who's building the systems. You're the therapist. You're the chief problem solver. And what happens as you all those things in your business and all those things in your personal life and your fitness and your family with your friends, you're trying to fill the role of so many people. Your revenue has grown, but your personal freedom has not. And the thought, if you're really honest, the thought of 10x in income sound great, but deep down, you know, man, if this thing got bigger, it's going to crush me. If I look at it from a different perspective, maybe you're someone who's been in business a while, you build a solid business. You know, though, that with this solid business, if I have one health scare, one key employee, one economic shift, one client, one regulation that changes, then I'm in trouble. All your eggs are in that basket, as we would say in the South. You're not afraid of hard work. Maybe that's you. You're not afraid of hard work, but you're afraid of wasted work at this stage of your life. You don't have time. I can't mess up. And what we are looking at is this pressure of our business is leaching over into everything else. So today I want to talk about pressure. Why pressure does not kill income, but what does? I want to talk about how do we position so that we can handle the income. So here we go. Number one, your income is not stuck because the market is unfair, because life is unfair, because you got dealt a bad hand of cards. Your income is stuck because your structure cannot carry the next level of pressure that God is trying to put on that. Your business can't handle it. Your structure, your life can't handle it. Your marriage can't handle it. Your family can't handle it. Your health can't handle it. God wants to give you exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think, but the structure that you have designed around your life can't handle it. And thus, you're stuck. And then we say that, what my mind used to say whenever I was working with my coach, what my mind used to say is, dude, I don't want to go through hard times. I don't want to deal with turmoil. I'm reminded of a verse, one of my favorite verses of scripture, James chapter number 1, verse number 2 and 3. James 1, 2 and 3, it says this: count it all joys, my brothers, my friends, my brothers in Christ. Count it all joys whenever you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. See, that trials there, it basically means not a minor inconvenience. This is a pressure. This is a testing. This is a circumstance that you're going to put strain on your life. So just, man, count it all joy, dude. Celebrate in this, that whenever you are faced with this pressure in your life that feels like it's going to break you, because in that breaking, that is what's going to produce the steadfastness. That's what's going to produce your ability to maintain the weight at which you run. In my own life, with what I deal with now with 5 companies, with what I deal with coaching clients, speaking on stage, writing books, I still work one day a month in another capacity. I have a blast with what I'm doing. But if I look back 10 years ago, man, the Justin Goodbread 10 years ago couldn't handle the pressure. I couldn't deal with it. And I would dare say that the Justin Goodbread today could not handle the pressure of where I'm going to be in 10 years. Because what God does is he takes this pressure when things get hard, whenever my coach, which they currently are doing as I'm recording this, whenever they're pushing into me and they're striving me and they're saying, hey, Goodbread, you're not there yet. Yeah, you've accomplished some things. Yeah, you took a coaching business from startup to $1 million run rate in a year's time. Big whoopee-doo. What are we going to do to get to a 8-figure run rate? Yeah, I'm like, did you not just see what I did, man? Did you not just see what our team did? And now you have me thinking about an 8-figure run rate? Let me just celebrate this. As I am pushed into pressure with my coaches, and now as I'm coaching other advisors and other business owners, and I'm pushing pressure on them, I know what it's like. But I have to remind myself a simple philosophy, and that is this: God uses pressure to reveal what is real and to expose what is weak and to build capacity to carry more. When we're talking about systems here, that our systems, obviously our mind might go to the fact that our business operating system is weak. Right? How are we going to 10x our income if our business operating system can't handle that? But I want to take it a little bit further out than just our business operating system. How can you 10x your income if your family's operating system can't handle the income? How are you going to 10x your income if your health can't handle it? In business terms, the way my mind works is I say to myself that pressure does not invent the weakness in the model. The weakness is already there. The weakness in the model, the weakness in the team, the weakness in my leadership, the weakness in my family, the weakness in my health, the weakness in my friendships, the weakness in my faith, everything is already there. But what pressure does is it makes it impossible for me and for you to ignore. You see, whenever the structure of our life, the structure of our fitness, the structure of our business, whenever it is weak, growth exposes the weakness. Complexity exposes the weakness. Responsibility exposes the weakness. Just right now, I've got a little pulled muscle in my elbow. And I thought my elbows were strong. I've been working out consistently now for over a decade, and my fit coach is pushing me very hard to achieve some things that I want to personally achieve. And we were doing not just like meathead type of weightlifting, but we're doing a lot of like Pilates and stabilizing things and working on stabilizing muscles. And for some reason, this little tendon in my elbow is sore, man. It hurts. I'm not much on taking pain meds, but I've been a couple of times I take some Advil because this thing hurts. I know I'm whining. Yeah, I get it. My coach told me, with no sympathy, mind you, she said, well, that shows me is that your muscles, that particular tendon is not strong enough to handle what you want to achieve. We've got to strengthen that. But if we only focus on that one tendon, we're going to lose strength other places. I love coaching clients. I love it. I'm having a blast. I'm watching businesses radically grow. And people pay us very well for this, by the way. I don't apologize. I've worked for 35 years and built a knowledge level that I can walk into a company, see what needs to be done, and rapidly grow that company. And people pay us a premium for that. We have our coaching begins at $1,500 a month and it goes upwards of $20,000 a month. I don't apologize for that. We're not here to be all things to all people. We're here to help people who want to achieve decamillionaire status. And if that's you, maybe you consider some coaching. So here's what you would get from me. Whenever I'm in a coaching program and I'm coaching a client, you may hear me say something like this. When everything still flows through you, the owner, the person I'm looking at, pressure is showing you that you're operating as a hero and not an owner. Your ego's in the way. Well, yeah, I know that's hard. Relentless value coaching. I don't pull punches because our deck of millionaires, they don't want punches pulled. They want to grow. Look about this. Whenever you can't step away for 2 weeks or a month without anxiety of your business, here's what's happening. The pressure is telling you that there is no real leadership bench or operating system. Let me just ask you right now, could you walk away from your company for 30 days, for 45 days, and the company not maintain but grow? And could you do so with little anxiety? Look, I'm in a startup business, and I literally just spent hunting season gone for 6 weeks, and our revenue increased. And we're less than a year and a half in business. Why? Because I have a leadership team who's been trained, that I've been working diligently on, and I have an operating system. Can you literally do that? And friends, I wasn't worried. I'm telling you, I wasn't worried. Not at all. But what the reality is that when every little hiccup, every little bump that we see in our cash flow, it throws us into a panic. We realize that the pressure is showing us that we have shallow capital structure, sloppy planning, and it's not just a slow month. So see, friends, your pressure that you're experiencing is ultimately oftentimes a result of your system. Science Direct did some research on this, and they show that entrepreneurs who had unaddressed pressure led to impaired recovery and emotional exhaustion for the owners. And what they ultimately dove into is that most entrepreneurs are not weak, but they're tired of holding the pressure that should be carried by systems, by structure, and by teams. That's what this particular study did. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Instead of asking, man, why is this happening to me? Maybe you just change it around and say, what structural weakness is this pressure? Whatever I'm dealing with right now, this frustration, what is it exposing? Just a different take on things. Okay, so we're dealing with pressure. So then what equalizes pressure? It's a system. If the pressure is the weight, then the system is the frame. Look, you're not going to 10x your income on the same flimsy wireframe system that got you to this point. If you try to, it's going to collapse. Often what I hear from people who engage us and they pay us a premium dollar, these are the individuals who are often like, dude, I've only got 5 years left. My business is only worth, $1 million or $2 million. I need to be worth $10 million. I got 5 years left. I don't have time to screw around. Let's roll. What I often see is I'm talking to them, we're beginning to help them build their life to that decamillionaire status so they can maintain the same standard of living they're doing and retire or exit with dignity. What we often will say is that you cannot build this next level on the same weak, anemic, owner-centric structure. It won't work. One of my favorite verses that I heard growing up was in 1 Corinthians 14:40. Simple statement. It says, but let all things be done decently and in order. Let all things be done decently and in order. When you separate that decently and in order, it means that in an ordained pattern, and it means to remove all chaos. It means a structured arrangement. Even whenever God's talking about worship, he's saying everything ought to be in decently and in order. There's a structure and a process to that. Friends, I want to take you back to Pascal's principle. We have the 2 glasses on the table in front of us. They're connected by a simple tube, and we're pouring water into both glasses. And as we pour water into one, they levelize. Here's what's interesting. Without that tube connecting the 2 of those glasses, we would not have that equalization. See, the system that you have in your life, the system that you have in your health, with your family, with your friends, with your faith, and with your business, your system is what is truly allowing the pressure to flow across all things. What would happen, though, if we could just simply kink that little tube in between the 2 glasses? Now we could pour water in, it would begin overflowing. What happens in business, and this is what I see as I'm coaching people, is we often look for the simple solution and we fail to see the patterns. See, we look for the simple solution of, man, why am I pouring water in here and it's just going, I just got to pour more water into it. What we fail to realize as business owners is that there are different types of pressures that we could experience that we might not recognize. For example, capacity pressure. Capacity pressure, it's there. More than likely, you're already facing it as a business owner. The team is maxed out, but profitability is not growing. Everybody's busy, but very few things actually get done. That's a capacity pressure issue. Okay, how about this one? 2 clients bought the exact same thing. They get the exact same service they paid for, but they get 2 different experiences. You'll hear something like, well, I do it this way. And the other person may say, well, I do it this way. That is a consistency pressure. Okay. Your branding promise is one thing, but your day-to-day delivery is something else. That's the consistency pressure. Or maybe it's this. Maybe it's you are the bottleneck. Everything has to flow through you. It's like, well, Justin, I don't have to do everything. Hogwash. Man, I born tonight. I wasn't born last night, friends. I've been in business now over 35 years. I've seen some amazing things in business. I've consulted over 1,000 business owners. I've watched a couple hundred double and triple the value of their company. If you can say it, I've heard it. I've probably said it myself. Let's just be honest about it. We as business owners will often say, well, no, everything didn't have to go through me, and then we micromanage. Just this last week in our coaching program, I was doing a year-end review, and one of the questions I was asking around was delegation and being able to delegate a task that was written on their strategic plan that we teach, and were they able to relinquish control and authority? Scale of 1 to 6, the vast majority of people said 2. I could not do it. That's decision pressure. That's decision pressure. Whenever your team says, well, I better ask Justin, I wonder what Justin thinks. I literally was sitting with one of my team members. They were asking me questions, and I said, I'm listening to the question, and I said, may I coach you for a little bit? And she said, absolutely. And everybody kind of leans in. So this particular question that you're asking me, I'm going to say something that's going to sound harsh, but I don't care. I don't care what the answer is. This is the type of question, the type of decision that you have the authority to make. And it was a big decision, friends. It was a big decision. So you have the authority to make this. Her exact words were, what if I mess up? I said, then we learn from it and we go forward. This is something that could hurt all of us. Then we learn from it and we go forward. But this is not something I want to deal with. See, that's the decision pressure that I've learned throughout 35 years of business that I got to get to my team and let them deal with it. How about this one? Man, my top line revenue is strong, but my net profit, man, my margin's not increasing. We teach a principle called 5 by 5 by 5 in the coaching program. And whenever I tear that principle apart, the clients will say, there's no way. What they're dealing with is financial pressure. Cash flow is lumpy. Even though the revenue seems stable, cash flow is lumpy. You're saying, man, my clients, sometimes they don't pay on time. Sometimes they do. I get big spurts here and there. And man, it's just very tough. Friends, I just went through a few, and I could give you dozens upon dozens, and yours may not be what I just listed. But the reality is if you're feeling pressure, it's not random. It's simply a sophisticated system that's showing you the weaknesses with your business, with your life. See, the reality is that you're not going to 10x your income. You're not going to become a decamillionaire until you realize that the systems of your company, the systems of your life, the systems of your health is what's going to afford you the privilege for you to reach decamillionaire status. It's the systems, friends. It's not you. Friends, here's the most fascinating point of this whole discussion. There is a unbelievable, stark, noticeable difference between those founders, those business owners who break and the owners who break through. And it's not the amount of pressure they feel. It's the same pressure. There's an amazing dichotomy between the two. And that is this. What do they do with the pressure? You see, here's the difference. Leaders who reach decamillionaire status, leaders who 10x their income, leaders who double their enterprise value in 18 months, they don't resist pressure. It's not that they don't want it. No, they just don't resist it when it shows up. Instead, what they do is they redirect it toward profit. Let's unpack this, because I think this is the key that most of us don't see. 2 Corinthians 4:8 says it this way. We are hard pressed on every side, but we're not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Have you ever been there? Have you ever felt like the whole world is coming around you and pressing you from every side, man? It's serious pressure. That hard press in that verse talking about serious pressure. Whenever I grew up, we would actually go to a mule days. I've mentioned this in the past of podcasts, and I would watch these presses just come down and just squeeze sugar cane to where all the juices just come flowing out of it. And if you stuck your hand in these presses, it would literally smash your hand. All the blood would come out of that. But I would watch these presses. That's the picture here. We are hard pressed from every side. We're in this press that's pushing everything out of us, but we're not crushed. We're perplexed, but not in despair. When he says we're not crushed there, what Paul's saying is this. Even though these external forces are coming in, there's enough internal support, and there's enough divine support, and there's enough structure, and there's enough things in our lives, intuition, belief, vision, values, team, all those things, that the pressure is not going to destroy us. It's interesting when you go back to those two glasses around Pascal's principle. It's interesting that the principle is not just about equalizing pressure. In hydraulics, a small pressure applied on a small piston produces a larger force on a larger piston. Small input, proper system equals massive output. Okay? I see this on my tractor. There's a small little piston. And as it's pushing up the hydraulic pressure, there's this little cylinder. And all I got to do is move something. And all of a sudden, this arm, this boom in front of me, can lift up thousands of pounds. Small input with the proper system delivers a massive output. In business and in life, this little principle is what we see in the business owner that reaches decamillionaire status. They don't just sit under the pressure. They get that little bit of pressure. Then they direct that pressure into the right system. And what it does is it creates leverage. Boom, creates leverage. But if we're being candid, and I'm not pulling punches today, if we're being candid, most of us will see somebody else and we won't understand what's happening in the physiology, the psychology, and what's happening in that person's line. And we think it's just about learning a new structure. We think it's just about learning their little coaching tips. I was telling our coaching clients the other day, I was like, guys, look, man, I got to tell you, I was ticked at my coach. I'd paid $60,000 and he had not taught me one new concept. All he did was talk about my mind. I was ticked. I'm wasting money. $60,000. I'll never forget it. He said, Justin, you already know what to do. The problem is that you don't know how to direct it to where you know to put it. That one thing unlocked my life. And I was paying this guy $10,000 a month. Paid him $10,000 a month for 4 years. Took a business from a startup to an 8-figure exit in 49 months. No exaggeration. What most of us do is we want to shortcut it. What most of us do is want to get the microwave effect. Just teach me what to do and I'm going to go do it myself. It doesn't work that way. See, the individual who has that little bit of small pressure in their life and they direct it to the proper system. Most of us don't have proper systems, but we direct it to the proper system, get the massive output. From the outside, that looks easy. It's not. It's interesting to me. It's fascinating. As I research not only the way that my mind thinks, but the way my coaches taught me to think, but as I research business owners, as we're walking through our coaching programs, I can tell you the ones who are going to double or triple their company. I can tell you too. By the way, my team can see it. It's interesting because those who want to double or triple the value of the company, those who want to 10x their income, those who say, I'm tired of making $100,000, I want to go to $1 million a year in income, they treat pressure differently. See, instead of asking, man, how do I get rid of this as fast as possible? What they say is, what decision is this pressure forcing me to make that I've been avoiding? It's like fine tuning. And it's not a play on words. I'm not trying to be cute or trite here, friends. It's literally a play on words. It's understanding whenever that little bit of pressure comes in, how do I redeploy it to get a massive scale? When things feel tight, people who's going to double, triple their company, they don't react by working more hours and taking anything that moves. They redirect their energy into high leverage shifts. They reposition offers. They redesign the client journey. They build their leadership bench. They don't work more. I realize there's this mindset in the internet world right now about this hustle culture, about working as hard as you can for as long as you can. And it's almost like this badge that we wear. And most of the time, those individuals who say that don't have a kid and they've already lost their family. Okay, they don't have any children. They've already lost their family. They've already gone through multiple divorces. If that's you, have at it. If you want to have that life, have it. I don't. I love my wife. I love my kids. I want them to do what we just did. We just had a fun midday lunch out. I had a blast with that. I love that. So I don't want to take any time life comes at me that I'm going to work harder and pour into it. I want to know how to redirect things. That's what these 10X people do. SHRM does amazing research, and what they consistently show is that poor leadership and heavy workloads are the top 2 drivers to burnout in organizations and business owners. Pressure itself, it's not the pressure itself, friends. It's the unmanaged pressure with no structure or leadership response. If I'm talking to you directly, here's how you might recognize this. You're trying to outwork. You're working harder. Just a few more minutes in the office, sweetheart. I'll be done with this. You're trying to outwork it. You let every new demand jerk you around, new shiny object. I literally just yesterday, one of our coaching clients, a business owner who has now got his business finally where it can operate autonomously without him, his goal, he now brings in 4 different ideas. And I had to teach him the principle that the enemy uses, the devil uses to rob God's blessing. I said, dude, this is shiny object. You're letting things just jerk you around. You're going back to the same old 30-year track record you've been in. He's like, you're right, Justin. You're right. And his wife said, thank you. Thank you. It happens. See, friends, everybody else can see it except for us. Maybe it's this way. Maybe you've absorbed the pressure personally for decades. And you know that if this continues, your health, your marriage, your faith, your business is going to falter. Maybe you're at that stage. So friends, whenever you stop seeing pressure as something you have to avoid, something you have to run from, something you have to fear, and start looking at it as something you have to aim, there's a fascinating event that happens. It's my fourth point. God will not consistently increase what you refuse to steward. Income included. Valuation included. You want a decamillionaire status? Until you steward. Whenever I say steward, you take responsibility. You serve that business, that income, as if it was not your own, as somebody else's. When you steward that, God will continue to increase it. Matthew 6:21 says, red letters, Jesus speaking, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Oftentimes what I see when business owners reach out to us to help them radically grow their company, radically grow their income, what we see is they have a hard time handling money, time, people. The pressure is revealing where their true heart treasure is. Treasure could be wrapped up in pride, could be wrapped up in ego, could be wrapped up in prestige. But you can't say that I want 10x income. You can't say that I want to double my business if you're not willing to follow the stewardship principles that God has for our business. You can't do it. So where do we end up having issues? Well, the first one is time. How's your calendar? Your calendar reflects your priorities, not panic. People who scale their businesses, they protect their time. They plan time. They have time for rest. They have time to turn life off. They have time to play with their family. They have time to play with their friends. The other day, I was middle of the day shooting skeet with a bunch of friends. Middle of the day, work day, because we made time to be together. That's time stewardship. Money stewardship is we treat money as a tool for growth and impact, not just trophy, not a trophy or a toy. Most of us, if we're honest about it, we want to get the money so we can put it in our bank account and sit back and say, look at what I got. Friend, that's not the way that people who 10x their lives or double or triple the value of their company think. They take and what they receive in terms of income, they reinvest it back into systems, back into talent, back into margin for their life that allows them to serve where they truly want to serve. They don't go out and inflate their lifestyle. Maybe it's people stewardship. Business owners who scale their company, they invest and they develop their leaders. They're not babysitting employees. They have the hard conversations, the conversations where that individual says, I'm done, I'm out of here. Okay, then so be it. They have those conversations. Most people won't do that. And then they look back and they take it down to the vision. They stewardship their calling is what I often say, their vision, their purpose. That very thing that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt, I am good at this and I believe this is what God has me here on earth for. That calling stewardship. Here's the uncomfortable truth. God often increases capacity before he increases income. Let me say that again. Throughout all Scripture, God will often increase capacity before he increases income. But what do we want to do? In our Western culture, in our microwave society, we want to go out and increase our income, but never do the things that requires the income, the capacity to facilitate that. If he gave you 10x income before he gave you 10x capacity, then it would expose every single weak structure violently. It would multiply your stress. It might even damage your witness in the community. The very platform that God gave you to be a sounding board for all to hear of his goodness and his glory, it might even discourage, it might even damage your witness. So God's always take it to the bank, man. He always increases your capacity before he increases your income. Always. And you want to increase your income, you got to take a step back. You got to look at the way this pattern of life works, and you got to increase your structures, your systems, your capacity. And until you do that, friends, there's no coach. There's no secret AI. There's nothing out there that will bring you the satisfaction and the desire that you truly have. So he uses pressure to build you, not just your bank account. He builds you. And only a few business owners ever lean into that process. Only a few ever allow God Almighty to rewrite how they steward their time, their money, their people, their calling. And those are the ones, friends, those are the ones who end up 10xing their income. Those are the ones who end up building decamillionaire status. They're the ones who double, triple the value of their company so that they can live with life now and an unbelievable life in eternity. So friends, pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is a tool Systems are the frame, leadership directs the force, and stewardship determines the increase. The question becomes, who are you? Which group are you in right now? Those who fear the pressure, those who fear the change, those who are looking for the quick fix, or those of us who say, bring it on, let's go. I know it's gonna suck, let's go. Which one are you? Hope this encouraged you. Until next time, y'all go out and make it a great day.